You can see of the 62 positive recommendations, the listing of products on the various provincial formularies has varied considerably. Again, Quebec is significantly above everybody else, although Ontario has actually listed all 62 products plus one that CDR did not recommend be listed. So Ontario, and this is surprising to me, has a better track record than I thought they did. You'll notice on the far right-hand side, that's Veterans Affairs Canada. When I first saw this slide, I thought, well, great, if you're an old Army, if you're an old soldier, you get any drug you want, but if you're a young soldier, you have to wait in line like everybody else. It turns out, when I talked to George, that VAC does not have a recognized formulary, and when you speak to them about which drugs they cover, they state simply that if you're a veteran and you need a drug, you will get it. So at least that's a very positive thing. If you want to focus on that particular demographic, I think it may be a little risky, however. And this final CDR tracker slide looks at drugs not only listed on regular formularies, but also the special authorization. Now, the majority of these would be Quebec and Ontario, to a degree BC, and a little bit Part 3 in Manitoba. So as you can see, there is a little bit better track record when we look at that way, but then you have to look at the individual products and determine, is that restriction that is currently applied appropriate? Is it something we can work with? It may even indeed be something you planned for in the first place. This topic, or the title of this topic, which was not chosen by me, is somewhat confusing. By the way, the slides you have in your binder are not mine. They're Dr. Calais', so there are some slight differences. But I think there's a two-way conversation going on. We're just shouting a lot louder than the other side. But I truly believe that the other side is listening, but they are government. And one of the biggest mistakes our clients make is they approach the government logically. This is something you should not do. It just doesn't normally work. Governments are really just big companies with very large budgets and the ability, obviously, to get much more headcount and support than most commercial operations. I think the biggest challenge we're facing is really with the types of products we're now bringing to market. Gone are the days when the majority of products seem to be coming out are small improvements for very large disorders. What we're getting a lot of now is very big improvements for very, very tiny disorders. And drugs for rare diseases are taking a lot of attention from government. And this is a challenge because the old measurements don't work anymore. These drugs are not cost effective. They'll never be cost effective, not the way they have to be priced. So governments are slowly starting to recognize this. I was at a meeting with the Ontario government on Monday, which some of you were at, that shows they're starting to recognize the need for looking at these products in a different fashion. But it's very, very slow, and it's going to take time. And unfortunately, time is the one thing we don't have in abundance because we have to keep the companies going. The former chairman of the Common Drug Review said to me 2 years ago in a meeting that I don't really want to pay for your little Me Too's that are just moderate improvements. I said, oh, okay, I can see that. And I don't want to pay for those really huge, innovative improvements because they cost too much money. And I said, well, you got to look at something because there's a business model here at work that if we don't cover one or the other, we're going to be amongst all those companies that have died on the road to trying to bring an innovative product to market. So I think that's a challenge that faces all of us. And we want to know, can innovative manufacturers and their associations, Russell, engage CADTH and CDR in collaborative dialogue to find a place for innovative therapies? I don't know the answer to that one. I think it's very, very difficult. CADTH is a political animal. CADTH works for the provinces and territories. CADTH does not work for itself. And as they'll tell you readily, they are not a payer. So their decisions are not made in the same manner as the actual payers. And the other thing I think we need to continue to look at is what's going on in other countries and can we learn from that? I would hate to say we want to take the NICE model. There are parts of it that are very attractive. But at the same time, most of the academics in this country want to look at Australia or New Zealand. And frankly, we'd rather not go there. So I think that while we can look and be aware of what's happening in other countries, particularly in the drugs for rare disorders, where we're more of a third world country than Romania is. I think we can get more drugs there. I think we have to be very aware that, yes, this is a two-way conversation, but there's also a bit of a ball game at play. We have to be careful not to come up with prices that are through the roof if we can find a way to work with government and payers to say, okay, how do we manage this better? How can we work together to achieve a result? And I think if we continue to work in that way, we might hopefully find some improvement by this time next year. That's all I have to say. I've been told to stop by the little flashing machine. That's great. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Bill.